Angle just right, let's
go! You inspired me. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Bandwidth and Banter. It's been, 2 weeks coming? But, life happens.
Cannot control what happens.
That's right. You know?
Sometimes the ick.
It's a treat to be back and be able to chat with some amazing folks. Last week we had, or well, not last week, but the last episode we had.
It was the last Friday we were live. Actually.
Yeah, it wasn't last Friday. It was the previous Friday. And
that was the launch of the Minecraft server.
Oh, right. Okay. So, well then, that was great. The Minecraft server's been doing very well. I'm super appreciative of all you guys. It's amazing. And next week I'm gonna get a tour and figure out how to play the game, and it's gonna be awesome. I can't wait to see all the stuff you guys have created.
Yep. So Stormer's gonna need coaches.
Last night's Legacy of Lore Masters with Old Man Garrus was amazing. And we got back-to-back amazing DMs because tonight our good friend CleansingRain is going to be on the show. I'm super stoked. Excuse me. He's one of the warmest, most brilliant guys and just a fantastic role player. Just like a true thespian. And without further ado, I can't wait to have him on the show. Let's do it. There's the man. Please, CleansingRain, reintroduce yourself and share something about your stream that you'd like to highlight.
Well, thank you so much for having me here. I definitely enjoy spending my time with the high quality caliber of people that you two are as well. So thank you so much for having me on this. While my stream isn't as active as it used to be in the past, now it's more focused on voice acting and RPing. One thing that was always a big fan favorite was in the past, I've had either whiteboards or if I pulled my green screen down, my whole wall is painted a chalkboard. I used to always have these 500-point channel point redemption trivia redeems where people could bing it in and the first person to get it right would get to write something on my wall or draw a picture or something like that. And that was always a very fun and interactive way. Sometimes we would do a mural for the whole week. And by the end of the week, there would be some of the craziest pictures up there. But it was a lot of fun, a lot of interactive and chat association between, us here at our team and the viewers out there. Since then, I do a lot of minor voice acting. What few gaming streams I have had in the last 6 months to a year have been accompanied with the ability to make me act as a different character while playing. And this sometimes comes into funny ways. If I'm playing Bannerlord, a medieval kind of army leading game, one of the voices they can redeem is to talk like Arnold for the next 20 minutes. So I might be Arnold leading them or various other voices that makes for a lot of fun over a length of a gaming session.
Oh, that's fantastic.
But thanks again for having me. I'm super excited for this.
Oh, you bet. I can't wait to dive into these questions. I guess I get the first one tonight, Druid.
You do. But can I just say, I said this backstage, but I have to say this again. I'm still really bitter that I didn't get to RP with CleansingRain.
Right.
On the Aliens TTRPG. And I just have to say, still really bitter.
Yep. Your poor widow hand got squished.
I was going to say, I did get a lot of time getting to RP with Stormy D in that. We were almost thick as thieves by the end of it.
Yep.
That was pretty awesome. I was honored.
My jealousy, I tell you.
All right. Kicking things off, CleansingRain, please share a boring fact about yourself.
A boring fact about myself. You offered to let me have the questions yesterday, and I was like, no, I won't need them, but that's a weird, odd one. But for the sake of being rolling with it, a boring fact about myself. I'm 6'5", almost 6'6". It doesn't always show up on camera, but I'm very, very tall.
Wow.
I have recently undergone some physical transformations, as in about a year ago, I was at my highest weight ever, and I've lost about 70 pounds so far, aiming for another 20 or 30 to make it a smooth hundo. Boring facts number 3, I am bald. This isn't just for show, but it does grow in a little bit, so I sometimes like to say that I'm not bald. I do think that mayonnaise belongs on just about everything. If you haven't put mayonnaise on your pizza yet, it's worth a try if no one's looking. They're going to judge you, but it's delicious.
I'm going to try it. Now that you said that, I'm going to try it.
You should. It's good.
Thank you. What a great answer.
Cannot knock it till you try it.
Right.
I will never judge people's food preferences. I'll pretend for the bit, but now I'm curious though. All right, Cleansing Rain, how did you pick your Twitch name and what was the inspiration?
Ooh, boy, that's a good one, and that's an old one. I have been Cleansing Rain since the days of Xbox 360. I was initially Reign of Mercy way back when. Decided that one was a little too biblical, so shifted it to Cleansing Rain, which was kind of still, but in a difference of its own. So I've been Cleansing Rain ever since Halo 3 matchmaking days. That's probably when I first shifted to Cleansing Rain on all accounts. So roughly, going to age myself here, but roughly 14, 15 years ago. Stayed with Cleansing Rain ever since. Like I said, it was trying to stay close. The Reign of Mercy name had gotten lost. It was one of those that at that time when Xbox Live was first becoming a thing, I had to have my parents, sign it up and create it. So therefore I had to submit a username to them that they would deem acceptable, of which was Reign of Mercy. But then when I got my 360 and you had to re-sign in, neither my parents nor I could recall my initial account. So that's where Cleansing Rain came from. I haven't ever really deviated from it, but 2 years ago, I did do a small rebrand and a switch to the Tribunal, which is probably where a third of my follower base knows me as the Tribunal. But I reverted back after our group stream of the Tribunal. A Tribunal, of course, made up of 3. When it became down to just 1 being me again, I reverted back to Cleansing Rain. And that's kind of just the backstory behind the name. Ever since then, I've really enjoyed being called Rain. I really enjoy my cloud emotes and theme to go with it. There was once upon a time when I did have a whiteboard behind me to write things. I had DIY'd a bunch of neon clouds that, like you've seen them, I'm sure, on on Wish back then that always displayed them, or Temu now. But I made some homemade ones using like pillow fluff from Hobby Lobby and tangling up some LED cord lights within them. But it looked really good, and I've just always liked the cloud, the rain, that kind of stuff. My channel is called The Storm, which I'm sure you guys are a little partial to with Storm Keeps. So.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep. Right on.
And
true fit.
And as a Pacific Northwest native, like rain is a part of my life most of the time.
I am in the South and in the very humid, wet, swampy South. Not quite Louisiana, but yuck. Arkansas. And we get like 40 to 60 inches of rain a year. It's raining once a week at least.
Look.
Yep.
I mean, I guess it's good too. So, I love it. All right. Next question is one of our favorites, and I think you're gonna like this one. What Dungeons and Dragons class do you consider yourself to be in real life?
Oh, I do love this one. I don't just like this question. I love this question. I just asked a group of friends this question the other night, just hanging out. Like, if you woke up and it was D&D was the world, what class are you picking?
Yeah.
If it were to be me living it, then I would say a bard. Hence my shirt. I like to be very charismatic, a little extra sometimes. Little known fact, I am a song leader at my church. So I'm the guy up on stage singing in front of everybody. Singing has never been a problem for me. Performing has always been something I really enjoy doing. So I think a bard is kind of where it would go. And then I would be lying if I didn't say I was extremely partial to the role of barbarian. Some of my favorite moments whenever, like, I don't know if you guys make vision boards. I don't really make vision boards, but I have a handful of like YouTube videos that I use for inspiration that are, just tidbits to like, And with Grog's natural 20s on Critical Role, that scene always gets me so fired up with Travis Willingham, probably my biggest hero. So Barbarian holds a very close second.
Gotcha.
First
so like
would have to be
if you were to multiclass, you'd be a barbarian, huh?
Exactly. Yes.
Listen. Everybody tries to argue with me.
Okay. Let's move on to the next question, Druid.
What's your favorite character you've played? You've played a lot of TTRPGs. What's your favorite?
I do think the one that we three played together, had it been a little more time spent, all the conditions were right. Because the biggest part, in my opinion, of picking a favorite character is also kind of like saying picking your favorite players, like friends that you played with.
Right.
Because I've been in a few D&D sessions where I don't care much for the character, and that's because we aren't all jiving as a unit, as a group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that initial synergy is so important to leading to the suggestion of whom your favorite character is. First up, my technical answer to your question would be probably Dashtian Yunvari, who is a sea elf bard. He is one of my favorite characters to have played. His voice isn't very difficult, so he's always fun. And he's not I would say he's not the typical bard, but he is the typical bard. But I got to go through an immense emotional ride with him. I based some of his backstory kind of with my own, which always helps. In his case, he's the son of a famous musician whom is dead now, and the wonderful golden lute that his father used to perform on has been stolen, and that is kind of what he thinks he wants most in life, is to just live up to his family's and his father's expectations. But he's really focused on it, starting with the acquisition of this weapon or this instrument. But of course, over the time, he has learned that his value and his strength is not by what items are in his possession, but what people are in his possession, what people are around him. And so because he's had some of that psychological breakthrough, I really enjoy Dashtian a lot. Other than that, though, I've done some one-shots that had some really fun characters that I always hope to bring up in another one. One other one, if I can do two.
Absolutely.
Is, I'm a big fan of dumb, caring orcs, be it barbarian or in the most recent case in which I'm playing a character named Thramakar. Thram, I like to... he's an artificier that kind of like Hulk. When he puts his armor on, it makes him bigger and stronger, but otherwise he's a feeble old man. I really enjoy Thram, and I've played Thram in a few multiple things. I really love ESO RP, Elder Scrolls Online RPing.
Oh, wow.
To be honest, that a group of people that I met on there really carried me through some tough times and kind of reinserted me into the RP world.
Awesome.
And my character there was Throm, the same guy as a barbarian though, and it was Throm will always be incredibly important to me.
Oh, I love that.
Love it. So, as a DM, can you share with us a favorite NPC you've created?
Yes, I can. On that subject, I am running a D&D, my first DM experiences, running my own complete homebrew campaign called The Nightmare Before Oz. It's a little bit of a crossover between The Nightmare Before Christmas and takes place within the land of Oz. And most recently, the party stumbled across an inn called the Lies and Shine. And so far, that has been one of my favorite creations that myself and actually one of my players came up with months and months ago. It's Lysander and Shine are the owners of it. Lysander is a dwarf and Shine is a hobbit or a halfling, so their love is a little taboo. However, for the last 2 years, ever since Jack Skellington crossed over into the land of Oz, Lysander has been very sad, very depressed, and his wife Shine just wants to figure out what's happened to draw him out of that funk.
Mm-hmm.
The party is there currently, and as they were inquiring some questions with Shine about, what's happened. Was it just because Jack came across? What's the deal that made him upset? But Shine doesn't know. Shine has made a deal with the Wicked Witch of the West to trade souls for Liza's happiness. And Liz has also made a deal with the Wicked Witch of the West to trade souls for Shine's life, because Shine is really dead.
Oh, wow.
Kind of like a Sixth Sense ghost thing. Shine doesn't realize she's dead. She's trying to talk to Liz, and she thinks that Lysander is just ignoring her and depressed and out of the way, but he's sad because she's missing, or because she's been dead for 2 years. His soulmate is now gone. And it's been some really fun dialogues. I have a party that really likes to detect and search everything. And so I was like, darn it, once they cast Detect Undead, they're going to know, but they didn't for forever. And it was so great, because then when they finally did, looking at something else and they cast a Detect Undead, I was like, oh, well, you feel something by the door where you came in. And then they looked at Shine, and Shine vanished like a ghost. But it, that's kind of those have been my favorite NPCs by a country mile so far.
Thank you for not only sharing those, but sharing such vivid descriptions of them and their personalities. I love it.
Thank you.
That's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh, my heart. How did you come up with the idea to have different streamers play the same character in your special RPG series?
Ooh, that's some deep information. I guess Garrus was part of that, so that might be where you got that tip off. I formed and gave the idea, but I brought in a far more experienced DM, as I only recently got my first experiences as a dungeon master or game master. So we brought someone in who had been familiar with doing it. We gave him all the details that we wanted, but we gave him a lot of creative free reins. But we did the here's the core concept, and I still think it's a fantastic concept today. We didn't finish the story. So the basic plot is that the main character, because I feel like that's a struggle within campaigns, is a lot of people get kind of main character syndrome, which is good. It's necessary, because it's the only way that everybody can kind of really expect what everyone else would do, because you're kind of, well, what would a main character do in this scenario? But in this case, the obvious main character was an Aarakocra named Jordan, who has amnesia, a multi-split personality. And what was fun about it is each episode, Jordan was played by a different person, a different streamer, a guest appearance every week. Now, to keep it congruent and keep it fun for them, we allowed, and the name of the campaign was called The Book of Jordan. They got to keep a notebook, and the only information they had was what the previous Jordans had recorded in the notebook. So when they joined, we would send them a copy of the notebook, and they would get any of the details that the previous Jordans had left. You know, like, oh, don't trust Cleansing Rain, he's done this, or don't trust Balthazar, we saved a dog and helped out, you know, whomever. The next tier of it became interesting because the other players started wanting to steal the book and write in, you know, false things like, oh, I owe Benedict 20 gold, and then would sneak it back and things like that. So the other players, when they became Jordan, didn't really know what exactly was true and what exactly was not. And it was really fun. That's the story behind it. The collaboration with getting other people to do it. Most people were interested once they heard that they don't have to do anything, just show up and be told, here's my previous information from the Book of Jordan. So it made a lot of people really like, yes, I am down to do that. Let me appear for one episode and figure out everything on the fly. And you know, there's no pressure because it's like, well, if Jordan didn't play this way last time, Jordan was really thieving and conniving, then, you know, this time Jordan might be heroic and selfless. And it was already explained for itself. So nobody had to worry about playing it differently or whatever. It was just, here it is.
That's amazing. I love it.
That is such a fantastic concept. When whoever our source was mentioned it, he's like, I'm not going to ruin anything. I'm just really excited.
Yeah.
No, that was a fun one. We unfortunately put it down though. The DM that we were doing, who was doing a fantastic job, his house flooded and his PC and everything it was just one of those natural disasters that just out of the game for 9 months. You know what I mean? Like, and we just never resumed.
That's rough. That is rough. But at least you got to do it for a while. Maybe you can revisit the concept again.
It would. Now that you have more experience under your belt.
Yep.
Agreed. That would be a good one that varnished out. I think would be a lot of fun to pick back up or to restart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So next question switches gears a little bit here. I added this question after finding this out about you because it's something that you and I have in common. Which is your favorite Civilization game? And share some other 4X strategy games that you like in the sci-fi or fantasy genre.
My God, I am impressed at y'all's research. Okay. This is not my favorite, but it is something I need to bring up in the nature of this conversation.
Okay.
Civilization Revolution, the one that came out on tablets and Xbox way back when. It actually was somewhere after Civ 4, but before Civ 5. And I've played all of them except Civ 1, if there is one. I started on Civ 2 and Civ 2 Test of Time playing hot seat split screen with my father. It's the only games I ever really played with my father, but we would play Civ kind of every night from 9 to 10:30.
Wow.
Civilization 2. And so it was very important to me back then. In my late high school, early college, for the game Civilization Revolution, I was number 2 on the worldwide leaderboard forever. Wow. Yeah, I was really, really good. Because of that, I haven't had a super lot of interest to play it because I had gotten everything down to a science and I was tough to beat at that game. And when Civ 5 came out, or Civ 6 won, I think Civ 5 became free, and a handful of my friends were like, all scooped it up, and they were like, hey, Rain, come play this game. I bet you would like it. Because, you know, they're still fighting with catapults and archers, and I'm sending tanks in. Like, it's just one where I can be fully modernized civilization by like 1300 AD. And so I'm just ahead of things. I love them all so much. I think they are fantastic games. My favorite one would probably be Civ 5, although Civ 6 has some really cool features with the natural disasters, like the fact of trying to build your nation up and then a tsunami hits your capital city, or a hurricane hits your best science city, earthquakes. I think that kind of degree of randomness really contributes to a good experience. I was a really big fan of more RTS styles also, like Halo Wars and StarCraft. Although I did not ever get to such high leaderboard rankings as I did with Civilization games. Never been number one at it, but number two.
Have you ever played Master of Orion 2 or Master of Master of Magic?
I have played Lords of Magic and Lords of the Realm too, but not Master. I haven't played those.
So Master of Orion 2 is imagine Civilization, but in space, and instead of
like Stellaris.
Yeah, huh?
Like Stellaris.
No, actually, it's technically Master of Orion was like I think the first space strategy 4X. But Master of Orion 2 perfected the concept. It is one of the most addictive games. It's as addictive as Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri. It's like crack.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
I highly recommend. You can pick it up on GOG, Good Old Games, really cheap. Master of Orion 2, I think you would just totally dig it. You can build civilizations that are Star Trek-like or Star Wars-like or Battlestar Galactica or whatever, and it's just amazing. And then another one that's really good is Master of Magic. It was actually created by Microprose right after Civilization 1, and it's like a fantasy version of Civilization. Instead of technology you're developing spells until you can get the spell of mastery to win the whole game. Or you can conquer the whole world, just like, And it's a fun game. They made a remake of it recently, and I own it. I don't think the remake is good as the original. So, despite the clunky graphics of the original.
On that very subject, Sid Meier's Civilization 2 Test of Time had a spin-off mode called Fantasy Mode. And the races you could choose from, or the civilizations you would choose from, were like goblins, merfolk, harpies, all sorts of fantastical creatures. But of course, Civ 2 Test of Time was very limited on what was done. Like, you built a lot of upgrades to your city, but your city just looked like a normal city. It never got like, Civ 6, you have an upgraded city and every tile has improvements and looks like a massive city.
Right.
But back then it was just kind of like, yep, nope, your city's just that square. But interesting. I will check the Masters of Magic one out most assuredly. As for Masters of Orion, I will keep that one memorized. My sci-fi tastes are generally not for civilization builders. So I will take a peek at it. But I believe Stellaris is one of the best games out there as well, but I just never played it out.
Me either. Yeah, I played it some, but haven't played through it.
Yeah, and I see it staying relevant all the time, and it's a good game. It's not been my shtick for. Now I say that, but I also really enjoy the other ones like Surviving Mars or They Are Billions, those kind where it's more of just the management, not necessarily expanding. But Factorio, games like that, I really enjoy as well.
Right on.
Oh, Ilt likes to play those. I love watching gameplay of those kind of games. Yep. I am just like, I don't have the focus for this, but I can sit here and watch you play it while I do something else.
Optimize. That's what it feels like.
It's fascinating. I don't have the optimize. I have the, this looks cool.
What's this shiny thing over here?
But I love watching it. It's fantastic. What drew you to Twitch, CleansingRain?
Whew. I've been streaming a long time.
Since 2017, right?
Yep, 2017. Started off as a Smite streamer. When I discovered the game Smite, I discovered it 2 years after it had already been discovered, but it just wasn't on my radar at the time. I used to be one of those I say normal. Normal's not the word. Generic might be the better word. A generic gamer. Like when people ask me if I played games, I was like, oh yeah, I play Call of Duty and Destiny. And just after a while, I got less interested in those mainstream games and started to look around and really open my gaming portfolio to things I like to participate in. Smite was the role I liked to play at the time, was not one that any streamers really focused on. It was just a support role, which is not flashy and not. But I was like, I played support every game with my friends, and eventually they were like, and this was the first time I really learned that esports were a thing. Growing up, I always hoped that esports were a thing, but it was also one of those that the stigma of gaming was kind of at its peak when I was in my formative years, where it's like video games are a waste of time. And so but eventually I decided to go live on it. I was streaming off the Xbox with the Twitch app and using the Kinect, that giant camera that was supposed to be for, you could play some of those games or it would watch you. And the Kinect was my camera when I first streamed. And I did Dark Souls 3 and Smite almost exclusively for 2.5 years.
Wow.
A very, very minor growth, struggled to get that 3 viewer average. And
but you got there.
I did get there. After a while, I would switch into more survival crafting. In fact, that's what I still list on my channel as my go-to survival crafting expert, myself and Swollen Belly. We have played just about every survival crafting game there is. We still sometimes will get emails from smaller devs about, hey, do you want to play our survival crafting game? Because we used to go through just each one. And at the height of my streaming, which would probably be somewhere between June of 22 and June of 23, I was fetching some pretty large crowds playing survival crafting games, and it still holds a obvious place in my heart for everything experienced.
Yeah.
And Twitch versus anything else, Twitch just is always, I'm not dissing anybody who wants to stream on Kick or any of the other ones. I think there's no correct road to take. Seeing Mixer come and go, seeing others come and go, I've just always decided to stick with Twitch. That's where a majority of the viewership is, and that it's less about the platform that you're on and more about the content that you're making. But I mean, obviously the platform does play a role in things. Discoverability used to be terrible on Twitch. YouTube, of course, would be the dream one to get going with, but it's also kind of hard to just throw years of effort and everything behind from Twitch to just go over to YouTube. I know you can do both now, I believe, but but still, it gets to be, I don't know, you just kind of grow comfortable with stuff, and Twitch became something to grow comfortable with.
Yeah.
What did
I get that.
Yeah.
I get that.
Agree.
I don't plan on going anywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did family and friends think when you told them you planned on streaming back in 2017?
I appreciate this question a lot, and this one's going to be into a little bit of story time, not necessarily explicit story time, but before I answer that question, or as I'm answering it, I want to say that someone said something to me about 2 years ago that has just never left my mind. And what they said was, you spend the first 20 years of your life learning how to conform with the rest of society around you, with your peer groups. That's your formative years going through high school. You might enjoy anime or Yu-Gi-Oh or My Little Pony, but you didn't talk about it at school. You didn't. There were certain things you brought up and you didn't bring up, certain things that were cool and uncool. You learned in that first 20 years what the conformity world wants. And then the second 20 years, you start to learn how to unconform yourself, to just be true to who you are and what you like to do. And with that unconformity coming out in me, I decided that I didn't owe anybody answers for anything I was doing. And that was very helpful at the time, because I since then have struggled with some mental health. I know a lot of people struggle with mental health, and I think a lot of it comes from the stigma that surrounds gaming and streaming. And I think that while everybody initially starts streaming, A, because it's a good social outlet, B, let's be honest, everybody does to some degree want to be that next huge streamer that everyone talks about, that's making tons of money and just being a good person, a fun person. Like, how much would you love to be super charitable and go, you earned $1 million streaming this year, and you're going and you're sending a kid to college and you're helping a family get, there's so many things that can come with it that are inspiring and desirable for the best possible outcome of the endeavor. I want to pivot real quick to say that I have an uncle who is naturally born very short, is very similar to Cotton Hill. If you've seen King of the Hill, he's just kind of missing a lot of bones from his legs. He's very short, very smart. He worked at NASA for 25 years. When I was 17, 18, right at the peak of my too cool for school kind of mentality, I went and hung out with him, and we went to a little amusement park. And this small amusement park in Texas had one of those giant ships, that you sit on and it just rocks back and forth and it looks like it's going to go upside down, but it never does. We were the only ones on the ride. We weren't the only ones in the park, but nobody else got on, so it was just us. So we took the far ends of the ship, just him and I and the people walking around. And I'm trying to act like, oh, this ain't nothing. I'm too cool for this. I'm not going to. He's over there on the other end waving his hands and screaming, and he's clearly visually, physically handicapped. And from all of that, I realized that he was having so much fun. He was making the experience so much more fun for me. And the average person on the street doesn't care, doesn't know. There was somebody who I once saw a video where it said, a guy was like, next time you're walking by a park bench, just step up on the park bench and walk across it. See how many people look at you, because it doesn't matter. They're not going to remember you later. Just be your best self. It's like the high school dance thing, the guys and the girls all kind of stand at the opposite ends and, oh yeah, I like this song, but I'm not going to go dance, Man, go dance. Go act like a fool when you're on the roller coaster. Go be that person that you think about being, because that's really what's cool. Like, in my opinion, the most coolest thing is just confidence and joy that are unimpaired by other people's perspective.
Absolutely. Be comfortable in your own skin.
Absolutely. That is it.
I love that. I just want to relate to that so bad, because like I because like I have always been really loud and really obnoxious and really just like, and like being constantly told like, you're too loud, you're too this, you're too that. And then I'm just like, I physically cannot stop myself. I cannot physically stop. I could try. And so like I would always try to conform and do like all of that kind of stuff, and just being told and like just constantly being told throughout most of my life like everything that my essence is wrong. And then I'm just like, I cannot. Like I'm fine. I'm going to stop giving a shit now. And life is so much better. So I was gonna I completely agree with you. Have so much fun.
Absolutely. I mean, when I saw my uncle, like I said, who's easily apparent from afar that he's got physical disabilities, I'm sure his social life hasn't been easy on him. And but he made an ingrained memory upon me that time, because it just made me realize that it doesn't matter. I don't remember one other person in that whole amusement park, but I remember him acting like that, and I'm sure none of them know his name, none of it. You know what I mean? Nobody's like, "Hey, weren't you there 5 years ago riding the thing?" Nobody recalls that, but yet somehow we stop ourselves from acting it because of that first 20 years of conformity. Like I talked about, that we get into public and we kind of all instinctively put on this camouflage or the same team jersey as everyone around us. And I think that at a certain point, I hope everyone watching, you two as well, I'm pretty sure you guys have both reached that point, but that everybody realizes at some point that the coolest people are just the ones who are the truest to themselves. And
indeed.
And yeah.
And that's why we adore you, because we can tell you are too.
Thank you. I can be eccentric sometimes.
I have to say that's the most unique and interesting answer to that question we've ever had on the show. And so thank you for your candor and your insight.
Absolutely. That was one thing I really wanted to bring up, that story. And that.
You're the best. I don't even remember where we were.
10.
Oh, thank you. What tips can you share? Nope, sorry. I almost pulled a Stormy. What struggles did you deal with when you first started streaming?
When I first started streaming, one thing I struggled with, and I would believe a lot of people struggle with this, but it was lack of effort from your friends and family. And I hate to just bear with me while I elaborate.
I'm ready.
I mean, in the nature of, and I know this has crossed most everybody's mind, because I've had dozens of my friends start streaming, work their way to affiliate, quit streaming, start back up, seen the process cradle to grave many times. And at some certain point or another, it usually comes to where they hop in a Discord chat and they're going live and they've got their 1 or 2, which is probably just their other laptop pulled up to watch themselves. And there just comes a time and a thought where you're like, man, how hard is it just to pull this up? How hard is it just to pull a website up? Does it hurt you to give me a follow? Because it would mean the world to me. And so it's not necessarily like adversive support, but rather, I think it's real easy to fall into your own head as to reasons why someone didn't show up today. And it's not healthy to look at that. I know that everybody tells you this, and I fully support it. Turn the viewer count off. It will just save your mental so much more. I know that you think, well, I need it statistically. I need to see what I'm doing good and what I'm doing wrong. You can tell everything you're doing good or doing wrong from a VOD review. And how many of us actually end up VOD reviewing? Very little. Especially if it's been good streams. If they've been good streams, you don't feel the need to VOD review. Instead, your VOD review this week, you're just going to go live in extra time and hopefully keep that momentum rolling. And the vice versa. If you're doing bad, you're like, well, ain't nothing to watch. It's going to be a bad stream probably that you're watching in VOD review. Regardless, can I get you to restate the question one more time, since I kind of derailed myself?
You're okay. What struggles did you deal with when you first started streaming?
I think, like everybody, a healthy dose of mental health is a struggle. I think that I am a numbers person. I have a lot of quirks that I tell myself are just from a highly functioning brain. And one of those quirks, just to give you an example, if I'm walking on a sidewalk and I take an even number of steps in between the lines of the sidewalks, then I have to take that same number of steps for the next square and the next square. Like, I have to count that, I'm taking 2 steps within inside every square of the sidewalk as I walk. Like, I might be talking to somebody, but I am watching the lines to make sure that I only take the same exact number of steps in each line. Or if I unfortunately start counting while I'm driving, I like to add up license plates and multiply them up. And as long as they hit a number that's divisible by 5, I love it. Like dumb, quirky things like that. But I'm a numbers guy, very good with numbers, very good with math. And so it becomes real easy to try to break it all down to a numbers game, to a science, but this isn't. This is a social game. This is a friendship game. This is a support game. This is not something that just here's the algorithm and make it work. Granted, there are things you can do, of course. I'm not telling you there's not productive ways to utilize information. But I will say that one of the things I struggled with the most was over analytical and over self criticism. I think you got to be easy on yourself. Most of the time, the only one holding you to these standards is you. If you forgot to turn on your a certain sound alert, or you still didn't get something updated, if DMing, hey, I'm going to do this, I'll have it ready next week, and the next week comes and goes and you don't have that shit ready, that's just normal, and you're the only one who's really upset about it. Your players might give you some shtick about it. Your viewers might say, oh, where did that go? I was looking forward to it. And yeah, you should probably do better if you promise it. But at the same time, they're not going to be like, oh, well, he told me he would be wearing a wig next time he streamed, and here he is with no wig, this son of a gun. I'm never watching him again. Like, that doesn't happen.
Right.
But yet in our minds, we kind of go, I promised this, I should deliver, and you should, but you're being your own biggest critic, I think, is detrimental. It's helpful in the same sense. It's a tough line to walk, because you need to be critical of yourself and you need to be honest with yourself. And sometimes doing so can hurt you, and sometimes it helps. But there's a very fine line to walk there between what you can do and I guess what you should do.
Exactly. On that note, what tips can you share with future streamers?
Aside from turning the number off just to preserve your own your viewer count, I would say that anybody who's a new streamer, you cannot expect to be discovered overnight. A lot of the early stages of Twitch, all stages, I do 2 PCs. I have one's a stream PC and capture card linked to this PC, which is a little more high end for gaming, and that's how I play. But when I'm just gaming myself, I have 4 tabs pulled up for Twitch for people that I want to support. 4 is the max, that last I recall. I haven't kept up to it intently, but 4 streams off mute, 4 windows is the maximum number you can lurk in other people's channels. And you got to get to know other people. You got to get a foundation. You got to get a base. You got to work with people. And I can't tell you how many people are interested in collaborations. Like, there's so many times that this is honestly one of the first times. This is the first time I've ever been invited to an interview. So I am thrilled for that. I have done 10, 15, 20 interviews on my channel. Interviewing, playing games with, anything else with other streamers, it's a group effort. There is no, at the end of the day, it's just you. But before that point, there's other people. And right. I would think it's just, my advice would be, it's an extremely social game. And I don't mean to say game like that, but get to know people. And don't feel bad about when you identify those people that you really, really like to be around. Those people are going to draw the best content out of you. So like the old adage of surround yourself with like-minded or success-minded people is absolutely true. If you've got a group that's absent, quiet, silent, I'm not saying you need to leave your groups. I'm not saying that whatsoever. But I am saying that you will find certain people, usually in my experience, it's about 1 out of 8, 1 out of 10 people that you come across where you're just like, we must have known each other in a previous life or something like that. And it just makes you jive and makes you want to improve and makes them want to improve. And if you can find that symbiotic relationship that, to a degree, I'm guessing that Druid and Stormy have with one another, it really helps. I mean, Druid and Stormy, look at them. They've put together this. This is what number Bandwidth and Banter is this? How many have y'all done?
74.
74.
74?
I mean, that's an incredible amount. And off the cuff, like I think just finding someone else, finding that symbiotic relationship of a friendship goes exceptionally far.
Agreed.
For how you will perform.
100%. What do you enjoy most about streaming? What's your favorite?
It's the cliche answer, but I'm gonna say the people that I've met. I would like to reference a story for one of it. My family and I were out at an Outback Steakhouse in the local town, and we were eating, and I was the TVs were behind me, and I'm the typical guy that I'm gonna turn to look at sports every couple minutes, and every time I turned and looked back, there's this big police officer just staring at me, and then he would go back to, like, once we eye connected, he would turn back down to his meal. A few minutes later, I'd turn around to look at a score again, and he's staring right at me, and I'm like, what is going on? But I don't think too much of it. Well, I get a message on Twitch on my phone saying, like, hey, are you eating Outback right now? And I was like, yes. And so he came over, and it was one of my viewers that had been watching for like ever. Didn't know he was in the same town. Didn't know he's a police officer. It was the coolest, random sighting situation. This is at a time too where I didn't get a lot of support from my family members in the efforts. I wasn't streaming to very many at the time, 10 or 12. And I only say that because at my peak, I was probably in the 50s for between 22 and 23 was kind of the highest I had ever been with numbers wise. But at this time I was 10 to 15 or so. And he, to be recognized in public was just like, whoa, that was the first time it became real. That is by far my most fondest memory associated with streaming. Now, I do love story. I do love meeting and getting to collaborate further with other people. You guys met through Garrus. Garrus has been one of my favorite people to come across. Garrus is really one of my closest friends. We've been talking a lot about personal things, and that relationship would have never happened had it not been for Twitch. As tacky as those answers sound, but the people, again, it's a social game, so the people are the draw, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Agreed. I love the tacky answer though, because it's true though.
It is.
It's so true.
Yep. It is the perfect answer. Switching gears a little bit here. CleansingRain, how long have you been playing video games, and what was the first one you ever played?
The first one I ever played was most certainly on the original. Well, no, that's not true. My first game, not my dad's Nintendo or my dad's Sega, but my first game to own. I got a PlayStation 1 for Christmas when I was like 4 or 5 years old, and Disney's Hercules, the game. So that was my very first one. Didn't ever beat it. Never got much past like the second or third level. Honestly, you remember Nessus, the centaur that he fights early in the movie to save Meg?
Yes.
Nessus scared the crap out of me as a kid in that video game. Like, it just scared me. I don't know why, but he terrified me. From there, of course, I did a lot of Game Boy Color, stuff like that. Pokemon fan forever. I remember vividly all the like Enter the Matrix. That was a stellar PlayStation 2 game. So I would say about 4 or 5. Although not really gaming to the level that I game today. I grew up on a farm, so we did a lot of outdoor work. So most of my gaming took place like between 11 and midnight, and then go to bed. So it wasn't I wasn't heavily involved in gaming until, I went on my own pathway as far as being out of the house and whatnot. But definitely always been a part. And Civilization, like you brought up, has been an amazing experience in my personal life with my family, with my father, all sorts of things like that.
Right on.
I love it. What is your favorite thing and the least favorite thing that you have streamed?
My favorite thing that I've streamed. It's got to be 7 Days to Die. That was probably the game I've been most known for. It's a survival crafting zombie apocalypse game. Was very much a fan of it. That's the game that I had gotten the most traction on as a streamer. Got to meet a lot of really cool people that I'm still really close with today. It's been just altogether one of my favorites. They've done some great incorporations on that game. I don't know how familiar you all are with it, but some games have a Twitch integration. They have a Twitch integration as well. And anytime somebody raids you, it spawns that many raiders worth of zombies in front of you. So if you get raided by someone with 40, 40 zombies appear right in front of you, and they're
what?
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't realize that happened with the integration.
Cool. That's amazing.
Yeah, and it'll come up with votes like every 2 or 5 minutes. You can set it to whatever you want it to do. But there'll be votes come up where they, just little chaos votes that are like, oh, do we want to spawn in 20 strippers or ammo crate? And, your chat votes with A or B or whatever to whichever one wins at the end of the timer. That's what spawns. And there's a lot of really cool things in that. Also, as a budding streamer, you're always, unfortunately, but the reality is you're looking for ways to monetize, to make things to improve your dream, to improve your goal. Those things also allow people to do really crazy stuff like blow up your base or teleport you 10 miles away. There's one that's Summon Diablo, where a giant monster will come in and you've got no chance of beating it. But there's just so many cool things with it. It's been one of my favorite stream experiences. Least favorite, honestly, my least favorite time was nothing to do with the group that I was playing with. I was with a few people. I used to be part of a group called Seraphim Esports, and they were really nice to me, really good to everyone in the group. I still have a jersey and a flag somewhere that I don't wear anymore, but they in that day we were collaborating and playing together, and one of the girls that I was playing with got not hate rated, but rather she had her Discord advertised on a thing, and we're gaming together, and she's just like, I have so many people joining my Discord right now. What's going on? And well, we were in her Discord party chat. All of a sudden, like 10 people joined the Discord chat screaming the most obscene and foul things you've ever heard, and it made no sense. It all of us were like, what just happened? And she broke down crying. It was tough. And because of that harsh just display of animosity, I have to label that one as the worst experience. And it has nothing to do with the creators. Right. It's just simply that time whenever people used to really get off on that hate rating stuff. But
God,
that was rough.
That's awful.
Yeah. What inspired you to start helping independent game developers, and how do you go about that? How does that work?
That was the main goal of Tribunal. When I mentioned that I had rebranded a few years ago, I was at the peak of my viewership. I rebranded to the Tribunal, TRY Bunal. play on words. And it was 3 of us that were going through all sorts of games, and we would, at the end of playing the game, we just started by picking one that has an ending, because games like 7 Days to Die, Icarus, a lot of survival crafting games, Rust, they just go on. They don't have a real beat it. But then there's others that are like, what's that one called where you're marooned on an island with cannibals?
The Forest. Yep.
Yes. The Forest you can beat. It takes about a week, 20 hours, give or take, maybe 30.
Unless you have 2 ADHD people playing that game.
And it takes months.
Months.
But we went through where we would go week after, we would just try to beat a game a week or as quick as we could. We weren't like speed running it, but at the same time, we didn't really build much more than 2 bases kind of thing, and we would progress the story. And as we ran through all those survival crafting games, we started to, get a little bit noticed, because when you start playing the obscure games, which that's another good tip for new streamers. If you play an obscure game, like you look and, there's only one other person with 1 viewer streaming this game, that doesn't mean it's a bad idea to stream, especially if you've got any kind of audience. When you start streaming an obscure game, a lot of times the developer will take notice and join the game, or not join the game, but join your stream.
Yep.
And that can lead to some amazing connections. We really pushed forward on Twitter, trying to say that we would love to help people with their marketing and display and showing off their game. We had a few where we would go through, we would play them, and then we had a rating sheet that each of us would fill out our version of the rating sheet to say, here's what our tribunal's judgment is, 8.6 or what have you.
Uh-huh.
And in the same nature that like reaching out to other streamers is something that's a lot easier than most people give credit for. Reaching out to companies isn't that ridiculous of a concept either. And I'm not talking, of course, like I doubt Microsoft is going to send you much, or PlayStation, but I mean, on a smaller level, there's plenty of people just like us who are chasing a dream of stream growth and content creation, but in the format of running a website or creating a game or implementing physics animations into games. There's so many people out there that all have certain goals that can use content creators like any of you watching, or you two here, myself, to further that goal. So we'd come across a few websites. There's gameaneer.com, which is one of our first ever sponsors with it. They they do the same thing. They're kind of a small indie developer highlight group, and so we kind of use them as a middleman in a lot of cases. Gameaneer would put their stuff on the website, like this new game stuff, and they would send us the keys. We would grade it. We would do a little interview at the end. It picked up traction. We just had a falling apart in-house that stopped it all, and really is what stopped my streaming. After we had our the tribunal broke up, per se, I never really came back to streaming. Only occasionally for certain projects such as The Nightmare Before Oz. But other than that, I will say that sometimes, the old adage of don't go into business with your friends can sometimes be true, because if the business fails, then the friendship does too a lot of times. And I don't much like losing friends, but Tribunal lost some friends, so.
Yeah.
I mean, we made some, but obviously it doesn't equate. I would rather have me and the other 2 homies still being homies than anything we accomplished at Tribunal. But
yeah. What was the thought process in bringing in smaller streamers to playtest?
Well, because everybody, I feel like, is searching for their niche. Like if you do your proper research, and let me back up just a half second. When you're deciding to be a streamer, or if you're ever wondering why you're not growing or how to get to that next hill, it is important to do some research. It's always important to, if I'm streaming to 5 and I've got a friend who's always at 20, Well, then I need to be researching what they're doing. How do I move mine into that 20 category? Then my next goal becomes, 40. After that, 80. After that, 100. Whatever it is, if it's just getting from 3 viewer average to getting above 10, like how many people their milestone was like, I got double digits tonight. Like that was significant. And that all comes down to, I think, identifying the niche where you excel the most. And as you're trying to identify the niche, one thing that always comes up is opportunity. So people feel, how Streamlabs does those or Stream Elements does the sponsorships for HelloFresh and Raid Shadow Legends. And they kind of suck because you don't really want to do them. But at the same time, you feel kind of honored to be able to do them to an extent, I once took one of the Stream Element sponsorships for the newest season of Fortnite. I'm not a big Fortnite fan, but it came with accepting the sponsorship and hitting the goals, made me an Epic partner. So that was like, hey, now I could label Epic partner as one of my tags or one of my things. It's just another way to further your brand, your association. Mm-hmm. And so when it comes to bringing in smaller streamers, I tend to view, I like to look, and I know everybody does, but I'm still going to say it. I like to look at people by the content of their or by the caliber of their content, and less about the number at the bottom right-hand side of the screen. So on the one hand, I only brought on people that I had faith in. But on the other hand, I feel like people who are still trying to figure out their way, what their channel's all about, love getting some instruction. It's hard, even as an adult in the real world, not just in the streaming worlds, to like start your own business. That's a little intimidating. But if somebody's telling you, hey, would you like to come work for me? And I don't mean work for me, but, join me in a business I'm starting, it's much more comfortable for them. They're like, okay, yeah, this is more singular. This is my goal, is I'm going to play this game and review it. And I'll still do my regular stream 3-4 nights a week, but I'll do this with Rain and it'll help by proxy. And it does help by proxy. So it really wasn't so much the smaller. It was just more of people who were unmotivated at the time and presented with a way for them to reassert their motivations. And I think that was useful.
I love that.
I do too.
We here at Stormkeep firmly believe in rising, right, whatever that term that literally left my brain. Help me. What is the term?
Lifting up?
Oh, rising tides, something, you guys know what I'm talking about. But yeah my brain.
The rising tide lifts all boats.
That one. Yeah. Thank you. You raised me up.
Hey, Cleansing Rain, can you share some of your experiences with voice acting?
Yes. Voice acting has been the latest passion for me. This microphone was the purchase for that. With voice acting, while very much still at an amateur level, I've gotten to be now 2 NPCs in 2 different games upcoming. Nothing major. It's not like I'm the next big bad in the newest Call of Duty or anything like that. But nevertheless, really fun. I got to work with a group called the Plague Pals for my first one. I don't know if you've come across. Well, I know you have. You both played with Emily.
Plague Pals.
Yep.
I know them.
Emily and Chad James from Rooster Teeth were working on a game together and asked me to voice some NPCs. I got to do some lessons with them. That was really exciting because there was times where I was playing a centaur who has kind of a Swedish accent. And occasionally they'd just be like, stop. Now say the next line as if it were Santa Claus. Okay. Well, that little pony is, there was just so many things that help you break down the inner resistance to letting the character take over. Because again, it almost falls into this sort of like singing in the car in front of your significant other or something like that you just don't often do because it's kind of weird, but at the same time, once you're able to get rid of that fear of judgment, it becomes so much more better. From there, I appeared for another, and this is very small stuff, but I've enjoyed learning tricks such as like talking through a helmet. Whenever you're talking through a helmet, it's usually good to use a cup, stuff like that, to help with sound effects. I like to think my impressions are pretty good, although given that it's an election year, one of my impressions I try not to do as much anymore, but it's
We understand.
I do a really good Trump. I could do a really good Trump, and it's fun for gaming.
Yeah.
but also politics, soft subjects. So Arnold's a big fan of mine. I like doing anything Travis Willingham. Like Grog is still one of my epitome of voices that I actually, one of the times that I am playing Throm in a bi-weekly Saturday campaign with Silverwolf, I do a Grog type voice. Voice acting in general, a member of Backstage. Backstage is a common posting thing for gigs and roles that need to be filled. It is a paid membership thing. So if somebody else is interested in voice acting or looking into it, Backstage is probably the cheaper. There's 2 or 3 major platforms, but Backstage is one of the best ones, and it's relatively cheap, like $30 a year for membership. So if you're looking at what all is out there, Backstage is a great place to start. A lot of it, though, is appearing on podcasts or Audible stuff, which, hey, all that would be really cool as well. There are plenty of movie things, but a lot of times it's more independent developers and unpaid work. But that's, you got to start somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Other than that, just a love for RP and the ability to make an impression on someone. That's the best thing.
Right on.
And you have. I'm still so mad.
Yep.
I will not let it go until I get to actually RP with you. Just saying. It's a goal now. So, I don't even know where I'm
I hope
at.
so.
18.
Thank you. Cleansing Rain, what's your favorite part about being a father?
Ooh. So I'm a very athletic guy, being 6'5", pushing 6'6". I played basketball a lot in high school. So my kids all play basketball. My kids got their mother's height, though. They're not very tall. But my family history, like my granddad and my father, both preachers, both coaches. So it just kind of comes naturally to me to want to be a coach for them. I really, really, really enjoy that aspect. I have 3 children. They are 10, 7, and 5. And they are some of the most well-behaved kids you'll ever know. The 7-year-old is going to be a YouTube star one day. As he walks in here. Go away. Dad of the year right there. Get out.
Shoot.
But my favorite part about being a father is just that relationship is just undescribable. And it's really humbling to think that my parents probably think about me in the same way that I think about my kids, because I don't think about my parents in the same way that I think about my kids. And anyone else who has kids would probably understand that, like, this will get slightly dark here, but it's the truest way I know how to say it, so I'm unapologetically going to say it. You know how sometimes those older guys will say the stories like, if I ever found somebody doing something terrible to my kid, I wouldn't kill him. I would tie him up and I'd torture him for a long time. I don't think I could. If I ever walked into my house and something horrible was happening to one of my kids, I think I would rip somebody's head off. You know what I mean? I don't think I would be able to contain myself on defending my children. A lot of people talk as though, oh yeah, you'd much rather torture them, but and I'm sorry to say such hotkey words like that, but my point of it is purely for expression that, there's nothing I wouldn't do for any of those three kids. And yeah, just my favorite part about that is just, I don't know. It's the best thing I've ever done. I can often look at other aspects of my life and say that I underperformed in my career path, or I didn't quite live up to my potential in something else. But I'm not ever gonna be able to say that about not being a good father. Like, that's one thing
that is beautiful. We appreciate you, good father. Thank you.
Thanks.
I know this is a big deal for her.
We gotta highlight the good dads out there.
That's right. So, Cleansing Rain, switching gears a little bit to the last three all these last three questions are super fun, nothing super deep.
Okay.
But number 19 here is, what is the weirdest sleeping dream you've ever had?
I've only ever had one recurring dream in my life, and I don't know what it is, what it's about. I definitely know it is about my father, because he's just my, at the end of the day, whom's approval I seek the most out of any other living person. But ever since I was a kid, I've had a weird dream of, we're like doing an obstacle course race, and where it starts is like think the Super Mario movie, how they're just kind of like at that obstacle course and it's just there. It's kind of like that. It's up and floating, and that's where we're standing. And the start of the race is a air duct, like a crawling through the air ducts Die Hard scene kind of thing. But the first is an air duct maze, and that's it. We get out of the air duct maze, and I know there's more to the race, but we never do it. It's just the air duct maze every time. And I've only had that dream like maybe 20, 25 times throughout my life, but it's the only one I've ever had that's more than twice recurred.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, I never looked into what it could possibly mean. I have it probably once a year. That dream comes up, and that's about it.
Wild. I love the reoccurring dream stories a lot.
Me too.
If you could have any superpower, which one would you choose and why?
Flight. I know there's a lot of really good ones. I know that there's probably more useful and practical ones. I mean, flight is pretty practical. But to me, the idea of not quite Aladdin, but like to be able to step out on my porch at the end of the night, 1 a.m, just go like 50 feet up in the air and just move around. That sounds like the most relaxing, most spiritual thing I can think of. And that's always been just kind of like the dream fantasy. If I could just step up and just kind of, and I'm not talking about, Zoom to work today and Zoom home tonight, but just the nighttime, the stars, lights down below me, just the soft, steady float.
All right.
Nighttime's my favorite. I'm sorry.
Flight. No. That's all right. Flight. I agree with you. Flights was, yeah. Last question. Here we go. This is super important and tailor-made for you. Applesauce or Gerber puffs? You have to pick one, and the other one no longer exists in reality.
Oh boy. Well, then I'm taking Gerber puffs. I do not like apples. I like every food immensely. The weirdest foods, I've eaten them. The strangest things, I've eaten them. The hottest stuff, the most spiciest, eaten them. Enjoy them even. I don't like apples. Don't like apple pie. Don't like applesauce. Hate apple juice. That's the only one. I'll eat Brussels sprouts and liver before, and I really enjoy liver and gizzards, but I don't like apples.
You know what? And that's okay, because I love them. And you're just one less person to eat them. And I'm okay with that.
Listen to her. That's funny.
Yep.
All right, this is the time of the interview where we open up the floor to questions. While we're checking out some of the questions that people have for us, this is an open forum at this point. So if you have any questions that you want to ask us in between, that's fine too. You don't have to have any, but if you think of any that you want to ask, feel free.
Okay.
Looks like
Can I initiate? Because I have ones already in the back pocket.
okay, sure.
All right, I'll start it off, and this will be my only question, so you can feel free to carry on. My question is, how did you two come to meet and collaborate?
I love this story. We get this question a lot, but I don't mind telling the story every single time.
Every single time. May I please start?
Absolutely. Go ahead, Drew.
So I was a moderator for Just Me Josher. He was like the first person I came across on Twitch, and I'm like, you're cool, dude. You're just like this like raunchy dude from Texas that's just drinking beer, playing Skyrim, obsessed with Serana, like super down to earth, vulgar, wild. I love Josher, right? So I ended up becoming a moderator for him. Around the same time, Easelade became a moderator for Just Me Josher. And it was Ezo that had Stormy raid into Just Me Josher. So we started like, talking and connecting and all of this stuff. And so finally, like, I end up in Stormy's chat hanging out with him, and I was talking about how I've never had a chance to play D&D. And then he's just like, what are the characters? And I'm like, these are the characters. And then we were chatting in Discord, and then we started playing D&D. And like this was like off stream. And then we were like, we should stream this. And so we started doing Tech Talk Tuesdays on Thursdays. And then that turned into the Bandwidth and Banter. That's just kind of like so that's how we ended up getting Bandwidth and Banter and D&D. And here we are, Stormkeep stands strong.
There you go. For all the new streamers again, that's collaboration.
She did skip over one interesting thing. She was talking about that she was a moderator for Just Me Josher, but she was also a streamer at that time. And
I was a baby streamer. Yeah, I was a real baby streamer.
I came into her stream and hit it off with her, chatting with her while she was playing Horizon Zero Dawn. Yeah, we were problem solving how to for me to clear something out. Mm-hmm. And one of my clips in my montage is that's the day that Starkity followed me when I beat the thing. That's the day that Stormy and I were he was trying to help me problem solve how to defeat this area that I was way too underleveled to be in. And I was like, we're doing it anyway. But yeah. Yeah. And I will add also to what she said in that when, like she said, we were originally, the Tech Talk Tuesday on Thursdays was we were trying to set up for the D&D collab that we had I didn't just hit it off with her. I also hit it off with her significant other, Extirpate Fate. We bonded over Magic the Gathering and D&D. And so after talking to her, she was like, well, I'm going to talk to Fate. And then I talked to both of them, and they're all like, sure. Like we technically played for a few weeks off stream to see if we were a good mesh. And we meshed so well, it was ridiculous. And so we just decided, let's just stream this. And so we were doing all the online tech to try and set up a D&D stream the way I had envisioned it. And that was bore the idea. We just ended up having people on to help us figure out the tech. And it just turned into this kind of thing where we chatted and we said, hey, it'd be really cool to interview people. And we both kind of separately, but at the same time, came to this idea of what if we interviewed people in smaller streamers or medium streamers or whatever streamer we can get, just positive streamers that we want to uplift. And that was it. The idea was born, and we just ran with it. We've been very fortunate to have amazing folks like yourself on the show.
Well, thank you for that.
You bet.
Yeah. But appreciate getting to know all that, though.
Yeah. And that's the thing. That's just the power of collaboration. You never know.
On Twitch, yeah. Twitch is such a great medium for it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
I have I don't know if you can see on page 2, I started copy pasting.
Oh, you did? Okay. Is the first question the StarCraft one?
Yes.
Okay. Jolter asks, actually, you get this next question because I did the last question.
Oh, okay. Jolter asks, question, StarCraft 1 or StarCraft 2? Follow-up. What's your favorite StarCraft race?
Jolter's probably going to hate this question or this answer. Because StarCraft 2, because I've never played StarCraft 1 and I've only played StarCraft 2 a few hours. I was always more of Halo Wars. I do like those RTS management strategy games, but that was one that I never played it as it came out. So the first time I played StarCraft 2 was literally like 3 years ago, but the game's already been out for 12, 13 years since then. So I was like, well, if I'm ever to be competitive in this game, I have well missed the intro, the starting time. I'm starting a few miles behind everybody. So I will say as for my favorite race there, or class, whatever it is, the Zerg, I suppose. It's tough to not be a little bit of a Zerg fan. I do watch StarCraft when it's on esports, like at Korea qualifiers or stuff like that. I'm very much like to, when I'm cooking dinner, if there's an esports tournament on for a MOBA or an RTS, I love to throw that on while I'm cooking dinner. Those kind of things are always entertaining for me, even if it's a game I don't keep up with. Sometimes you'll see like Overwatch on ESPN 4 or something like that, and I don't play very much Overwatch, but I very much will watch it when it's at that highest level of competition kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Starkity asks, what's the most unusual talent or party trick you have?
Most unusual. I do some really good voices, and it usually leads to most chaos, fun. Although in my current state of life, 31, my parties are normally with parents or in-laws, like a lot of family. There's not often with 3 kids do we find ourselves at party mentalities like the question could have originated. However, even with family members and stuff like that, or coworkers, any versions of it, a lot of times I like to mimic not other people, but semi celebrities. Go through the drive through and order as Arnold, or
That's awesome.
Christopher Walken at the waitress or something like that, but. Mm-hmm. And it's gotten enough to where sometimes my in-laws or family members will kind of prod me to do it. Like, hey, oh, you want to let Donald Trump order dinner tonight? And like, okay.
That's hilarious.
That's probably my official answer for it.
Good.
Can you click off of the middle of the question, Stormy?
Sure.
Old Man Garrus asks, question, what are some activities you do in the evenings with your kids to help them relax at the end of the day?
So, one, if you're a sports-oriented family, you don't have to be. But if you are someone who wants to keep your children involved in sports or in teamwork and stuff like that, let me stop for just a second because I'm getting ahead of myself. First, children need, one, your attention. And I don't just mean to stay alive, but they view you when they are at that formative age like you are the coolest person ever. And if you have a creative imagination, you like to role play, it can be a blast in role playing with your children, asking them to problem solve. Like, for example, my youngest son, his name is Wyatt. He is 5 years old, and he doesn't talk as much as he should. His speech is underdeveloped. But there are times when he'll take a shower, he'll get out, And I could, of course, just go to his thing and grab his underpants and grab his shirts and his shorts. But there's other times where I'll just go, well, Mr. Wyatt, I don't know where any of your clothes are. Let's go check in your sister's room. No, not there. Well, I wonder where they could be. But they love that kind of interaction. When they know that they have your full attention, they love it. So I will say, if you can, at the end of the day, I bought a $20 Nerf football, with the tail on it, just those soft ones you play with at the beach. Lately, that's been our go-to. During the day when it's really hot for the summer, we will throw football with a sprinkler, like, okay, jump through the sprinkler and then catch the football. I'm lucky enough that my parents are my next door neighbors and they have a pool. So probably 5 days a week me and the kids will go
Just
swimming.
chuck them over the fence.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Rub them in some dirt.
But anything out there that one can get them to break a sweat, burn off some energy, it's super easy, especially with the technology availabilities today. My kids love YouTube. They watch almost exclusively YouTube. They don't hardly watch any kind of shows on TV. It is YouTube, YouTube, YouTube. And it's really easy for that reason. They all have switches. We're a gaming family. My wife and I both game. It's really easy to, at 8:00, just go, okay, we're all going to go do our separate gaming, for the night.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard sometimes to play games with them because, they can't quite keep up with basic things, but they can. If you're able to, I recently with Andrew, my middle child, have been playing an old PlayStation game called Champions of Norath. It's kind of like a Diablo style, just a top-down dungeon crawler.
Yeah.
And it's that has been so much fun,
Right
and something that I'm sure he is thinking just like I think about my father with Civilization. This Champions of Norath is probably going to be one of his favorite games by the time all's said and done.
Nice. Making
heart.
memories. That's awesome.
My heart.
All right, this next question, I'm super interested in hearing your response to it. Before that, though, I will also give a little plug answer to it. Lee asks, question, any TTRPG talk shows or podcasts you'd recommend? Maybe something you're keeping up with or currently or have enjoyed in the past. And my plug is, well, Lee, it just so happens there's this one called Legacy of Lore Masters. That's a special Bandwidth and Banter episode that we're doing on Thursdays. So be sure to come check that out if you haven't already.
It's gonna be on all of the things,
I caught one of those episodes with Jotun Red Wolf, and that has been another really cool person to have met via your guys' production and the Legacy of Lore Masters. I was able to ask a few questions in there, getting some help as DMing for the first time. So if the basis of your question is to seek, small, subtle tips for advanced DMing, yes, indeed, Legacy of the Lore Masters is proving to be quite a wealth of knowledge for that.
Thank you. Are there any others though that you
are there any
direct
others?
around to the
Yeah.
question? I don't keep up with a ton. I don't watch, like, I know Good Mythical Morning isn't, but I don't really watch a lot of YouTube at all. I don't listen to a lot of Spotify. So I'm not really keeping up with anybody. My biggest recommendations would come in the form of,
Bless you.
Bless you. Twice.
I thought it was going to be twice. It might be in a second. TikTok recommendations. Zach the Bold is probably my favorite TikTok creator that comes to TTRPG/D&D based. Mr. Shikadance is really good as well, but Zach the Bold probably takes my number one recommend for both concept and creativity. If you're looking for some place that's kind of going to give you some ideas for an upcoming campaign or certain scenarios you'd like to put players in, or just generically humorous comedy, I would recommend Zach the Bold on TikTok.
Love that. Jot that down.
Good stuff.
Old Man Garrus asks, question, when you hear, now you see that evil will always triumph because good is dumb, What, if anything, would you change in one of the best movies ever made? If you need to read it, chats, you can read.
Yeah, I'm going to scroll up a little just to reread that one while I
read that one.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. That's got me a little stumped.
Now you see that evil will always triumph because good is dumb.
Oh.
It's so it is the best movie. First off, that is number one of one movie for me. I love other movies, but Spaceballs is it's my favorite. I watch Spaceballs probably once a month, and I never find it not funny. It's great. There's so many good references and everybody I feel like has seen it. There's been very few people I come across that haven't seen it. If you haven't, I normally don't make statements like this, but you are doing yourself a disservice if you've never seen Spaceballs. It is a 40-year-old movie now, and it is just as witty and clever as if it came out a couple years ago.
It is hilarious. I've watched it a couple times. It's been so long, which is why I didn't remember the line, that specific line.
I didn't remember that one either until actually when you first asked the question, I had to scroll up, but then once Drew had read it out again, I was like, oh, yes, okay, that's Dark Helmet.
Yeah, I think it was the way I sandwiched it and phrased it in the question, because I was just really worried about not saying the question right at all.
So it sounds like your answer is you wouldn't change anything in it.
Yeah. I guess if I had to pick an answer for that question, Garrus, I appreciate how bad some of the intentionally bad the alien xenomorph looks in the end of the movie when they're at the truck stop, and you know he orders the special and one orders the soup, and you know the doctor, and out comes an alien, and waiter, what did he have? Oh, the special, that's what I had. But other than that, there is not the yogurt. Yeah, we'll be hopefully we'll be back for Spaceballs 2, the quest for more money. I like yogurt. That's Mel Brooks, and I'm just a big Mel Brooks fan too, I suppose. He's also President Screw. Hail, President Screw.
So Starkity asks, if aliens visited Earth and you were the first person they met, how would you explain streaming?
Ooh, interesting. That's a new take on a common question. Well, if aliens appeared to me, I would think that they would all think that the cell phone is our most pinnacle point of information of technology. Everybody has them. We all use them extensively. And it truly is a wonderful piece of technology, right? We're able to communicate with people all over the world at a second's notice, look up any piece of information throughout human history, all within just a matter of seconds. Now, of course, I realize that comes from telephone or internet, but altogether, this common device that just about every single human being has is pretty incredible. So I would have to start with that and explaining that streaming itself, in its purest sense, should be a view of the person's character and ideals. It doesn't always come that way. Some people stream with personas. Some people use different methods, but I would view it as I would try to explain it to aliens as a live peek at entertainment. I mean, assuming, of course, they know some basic things, that it is just television that you could interact with. You know, if you're watching whatever your favorite show is, that's why I was trying to explain it to my parents at one point. You know, I had mentioned that it's just like as if you're watching my mom's a big soap opera fan. She watches The Young and the Restless every day, has always watched it. And if, I was like, just imagine if while you're watching Young and the Restless, you could type something in chat, that everybody else watching it would see in real time and comment like, oh, that Victor's a snake. That's what my mother would always say, is Victor's a snake. But But yeah, just that it's a sense of community, it's a sense of collectivism, and it's all kind of based from entertainment, but founded in friendship. And,
Love it. What a
that's
great answer.
I love
That's
that
awesome.
answer.
Yes. And that is the last question we have for the night. It's time to wrap things up. My goodness, Cleansing Rain, it's been such a treat and honor to have you on the show. I knew from the get-go, as soon as I met you and you opened your mouth and you role played with us, I was like, you're the kind of person I would love to have as a friend in real life and at my table. And I it's like one of those things where, man, if I met him years ago in a different, and I just really appreciate you, sir.
Well, I thank you for that. That's, the most ultimate form of compliment you can give somebody, and we don't give each other enough compliments. So I greatly thank you for that. The feeling is not one directional. It's definitely mutual here. I very excited, not only because this is the first time I've ever been asked to be interviewed, but because I find both of you as extremely charismatic individuals too, that I'm extremely excited to have been here and grateful for the opportunity to appear on this with you. And I hope that one day there is a seat at your table that you would ask me to play with you.
Yes.
All
we
right,
know a lot
thank
of
you.
people looking for collabs too, Cleansing Rain.
Absolutely.
So I'm just saying, we got connected.
All right, thanks for joining us, and let's wrap things up.
All right.
That was amazing. I am so happy we had Cleansing Rain on, and what a treat.
It was literally like we had the Aliens TTRPG. He was on, and I'm like, I am adding him to the list. And I was like, we are having him on.
We did it at the same time. We both went in there. We're like, I was getting ready to go in there, and I noticed that you had done it, and you said,
and I was like, we're bumping him up. We're interviewing. Yep. We're pulling him sooner. We're bumping him up the list. We're doing this now. We're getting him on. It was so important. Like I knew.
Incredible.
Incredible person. Incredible.
Well, speaking of incredible, we have some pretty amazing news for next week, right? Yes. First off, we're going to have another Legacy of Lore Masters on Thursday. Is that correct? No. Okay, this Thursday we're not.
Hold on, let me double check.
Okay. Well, the one thing I do know.
Think to add it.
That
is,
no,
we have Jolter on the 18th.
I thought so. I thought we're having, So we'll have Legacy of Lore Masters Bandwidth and Banter presents on Thursday with Jolter. And then Friday, we're going to have none other than the Nerdy Northerner himself, the Lord of Vikings, big streamer.
Lord Fam.
Big fam. Nord fam.
Nord fam.
Don't keep fam, but yes, Nord fam.
No, we are the Knights. We're the realm.
That's true.
There's Nord fam.
That's right. Different, but equal allies. Can't wait to see it. So, all right. Thank you guys so much. It's been a pleasure. And you ready to wrap this up, Druid?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you guys for coming to the show.
Please drop a like, subscribe, and comment down below. And
if you're listening to the podcast,
please rate and review the episode.
We are Bandwidth
and Banter.
Thank you.
And good night.